Talk.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
I mean, I think we should keep this episode short. Like
it could be short,
like a 30-minute or
keep it short.
Keep it short. Keep it. What is it? Kiss. Keep it simple. Stupid. Keep it simple. Stupid.
Keep it simple. Stupid. Have you ever seen Christopher Nolan's like very, very first 2-minute little short?
No.
It's like on YouTube. It's called Doodlebug. And Doodlebug. And it is actually, it's so good. I can't remember what it's about, but I watched it.
Doodlebug 1997.
Yeah, I watched it and I was like, this is so Chris Nolan.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Huh.
You'll have to watch it.
Did he go to film school? Chris Nolan?
I don't know. Well, you'll have to watch it, the Doodlebug. Just the end comes up and I'm like, oh my God. Like that was actually pretty genius for like a little 2-minute short.
Went to University College London.
There you go.
Yeah.
Little London guy.
A little London guy.
Well, welcome to Sips and Clips. My name is Lian McFalls.
My name is Michael Schusterman.
And today it's just us.
Just us.
It's during this dry January, dry February, dry everything. It's just kind of the slow time of the year. So
it's a slow time of the year, and then Los Angeles is burning down. So
yeah,
we're taking our time.
But yeah, we're just going to kind of talk about the past episodes that we've recorded and had past guests on and kind of
have a retrospective.
Have a little reflection episode. But of course, we always have to start with what we're sipping on. So, Michael, I'll let you go first.
I am sipping on an iced almond milk latte.
Whoa.
Wow.
Iced
really breaking
this time.
I know it is iced this time. It's because I already had a hot one this morning, so I can't have 2 hot almond lattes.
Oh, you can. You totally can.
My doctor says otherwise.
Who listens to their doctor anyway? Just kidding. You guys are doing a fabulous job out there in the medical field. As well as all of the firefighters out there. I have my famous 3 drinks in front of me. I have my water. I got a strawberry mango smoothie. And I have leftover day-old coffee because that is how much I care about my coffee.
Hell yeah.
Is that I don't. And will not wait. I'll just drink. If I have leftover, I'll drink it. I'll put it in the fridge and I'll drink it, heat it up. And it tastes exactly the same to me as the day before.
That's horrible.
Many people will
it's actually horrendous.
Disagree. But that
Are you is coffee a scarce resource to you? I feel like you can make coffee for like 3 cents.
Listen, Michael, I don't like wasting food.
Coffee is like the equivalent of water with bean juice in it.
But okay, if you have coffee and you have leftover coffee and you pour it out down the sink and then you got to make more, which is then using up the resources of the coffee, which will make you go through that coffee a lot quicker and then thus make you buy coffee more.
Yeah.
If you just have the left, you're prolonging that need to buy more coffee.
Do you understand that eventually the heat death of the universe will take us all? Doesn't matter. Enjoy your nice warm coffee.
You know what, Michael? It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. I will drink the disgusting day-old coffee because it tastes exactly the same as the day before.
It doesn't.
How can you tell?
It doesn't. It's like, do you know those people that do you microwave your water? If you're making tea, do you microwave water?
Sadly, I do. Because I am so cheap, I will not buy a teapot. I used to boil my water in the pot on the stove.
Yeah.
And then my boyfriend was like, just microwave it. And I was like, darn it, it's a lot quicker and faster, but I don't taste a difference.
To all of our European listeners, I'm so sorry.
All right, for the podcast, from now on, I will boil my water before I
There you go.
Just for you guys out there, the 5 listeners who decided to listen to this fellow episode. I will boil my water from now on.
But I thought on this episode, Liam, we should talk about some of our past episodes, maybe go through some of the interesting stuff that we learned from our guests.
Yeah, sure.
What's and then maybe something that we're hoping to do with the show going into the new year.
Going into the new year.
Like what's,
do you want to go down the line? Or you want
Sure.
to
No, I mean, we can just
is it-
kind of go through the highlights. I don't know that we need to hit every single episode. I think just what's some interesting stuff that you learned.
Because some episodes are better than others.
Some episodes are better than others, and some of our children are our favorite, but we won't tell you which. That's for you to decide.
You get to choose which one you like.
No, you don't get to choose. I have a child that's my favorite, but I just won't tell you. There is a correct answer to this.
There is a correct answer. And if you get it wrong, then we might disown you.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you choose our favorite child.
But I think at least outside of figuring out how to talk on a podcast, which is something you and I both have had to learn how to do.
Oh, definitely.
Which has been really, it's funny. I've chatted with you about this off air, but it's funny to listen to some of our previous episodes, and like there are things you do in normal polite conversation that when you listen back to it on a podcast, you realize sound really terrible. Mm-hmm. And you have to be like, this thing that I just do when I'm chatting with people does not translate to an audio medium. Mm-hmm. Like I do a lot of affirmative statements when someone's talking, but I'll normally do it while they're talking, like in the middle of them saying a sentence. I'll be like, oh yeah, absolutely. No, totally. And that works when you're chatting in person, but on a podcast, it's really annoying. I listen to myself in the background. I'm like, Michael, shut up. They're just talking. Like, let them just talk. And I'm like, so it's something I've had to learn how to do, that when someone's talking, I just have to like be silent and then make like very serious eye contact with them.
The silent nod happens a lot.
Yeah, you just nod
on this
at them.
podcast. We do a lot of silent nods.
I mean, that's been fun just for like a podcasting medium, but I also feel like there's, I never did the ACE internship. And so like having Grant on and, I've chatted with Grant a lot about that, but, hearing his perspective on it, I thought was, something that you kind of realize like, oh, my one experience as a post PA is not everybody's, right? Like people's experience and how they get to the same places can be tremendously different from one another. And I feel like that's been a lot of what I've realized. Yeah. Especially like Chris's talk about living in his car and all of this stuff. And you're just like, damn, I had it easy compared to this. Like, So I feel like stuff like that's really taught me a lot. Even like chatting with Jason and learning about like DMTs for the first time. Like I'll never forget. I'll be like, it's totally new to me. Like that kind of stuff. I feel like
it's crazy. It's crazy too, because I feel like that all these people that we brought on, I've known, and some better than others, but I never fully got their backstory. Yeah. So like, Jesse and I had worked together on Hero, and like we're like pretty good friends now. But like I had no idea that he grew up with animation films. Yeah. Like I had no idea that was his entry into it. And I think it's interesting too to hear people who did have it kind of as a young age, and then the people who are like, yeah, I didn't really like, I watched them, but I didn't think much of it. And then you have the people like Esther who are like, oh, I knew, like right away, like knew that this was something I had to be part of.
And it's also funny how many people we've brought on, and you like people's entry into the industry, and so many of them go in one of two ways, where it's like, I just got my first job and it just never ended, or it's like, I came here for a year, I failed, and I had to go back home. Like I feel like we've had a few people of that now. Yeah. Where that's really surprised me, people being like, I was in Los Angeles until I went home and I just couldn't, like I was miserable here and I had to leave. Mm-hmm. And that's been really interesting, because I feel like that's not something you hear a lot when you chat with people generally about assistant editing and film. Like people don't bring up the really rough times. Yeah, exactly. And so hearing that stuff has been really interesting to be like, oh wow, some of these people like really had to fight. Like they really had to fight, not only just like to get that job, but to like keep their own dream alive.
It is interesting for the people that have gone home, especially because when I moved out here, I felt personally that I had to get out here as quick as possible. Otherwise, I was just going to prolong the moving process. Yeah, it would be one of those like, next year, I'll do it next year. Like, I don't have enough money. I'm gonna try to like get more money. And then I was like, I'm never gonna get out here. Yep. So I felt like I had to do it right away and then stay here. So the people that went home and then came back,
that's
is
just
like
crazy.
Insane.
That's crazy.
Because, oh my God. Like, yeah. But I think it was interesting to listen to, like you said, a lot of the ACE internship stuff. I mean, I think we mentioned this on previous episodes, but like I did not even know that that really existed until maybe like a year or two ago. So hearing about that process, it also sort of opened my eyes to how much that like group of niche people like just all know each other.
Yeah.
Everybody says this is such a small world, it's a small community, but like it is really so funny is sometimes.
I feel like anybody who works in film has this thing where you realize that like the entire film industry is made up of like orbits. Right? Like everybody is in a social circle with each other, and not everyone's in the same social circle, but it's funny to see where those Venn diagrams overlap. Right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's been a lot of this show too, is just you chatting with people and being like, oh, you also know and have worked with this person that I worked with years ago. Like we may not be in the immediate same social circle, but it's funny how even the most different assistant editors, you're only one turn away from a mutual connection. What's something you learned this year from one of our guests that you think without the show you wouldn't have learned otherwise?
Oh, I feel like that's so hard because I have to like think back. I feel like that. So this is kind of a hard, I guess, answer. But besides everything from Jason's episode about DI,
outside of the
entire episode, that was like, whew. I feel like that the biggest thing was probably literally just what we were talking about of like knowing each other. I mean, my like long-term dream or goal is to be like an Oscar award-winning editor, right? But it's crazy to think about how many, you kind of think like, oh, you just have to like edit a really good film and have it get into festivals and then whatever, like get the word out, have a lot of people see it, like submit to the Academy. But I feel like there's a lot more to it than that of like, who do you know? Yeah. Who do you know that could maybe get the film in front of people? Or who do you know that like the voting process, like I don't know really much about the voting process, but like it just seems a lot more intricate than just like you submit your film and you see what they say. And I feel like that ties in with all of the ACE stuff because I feel like people at ACE, interns and people who are in ACE honorees, they're all sort of in that sort of circle.
No, it is. I mean,
and it's interesting. Yeah.
I think that's one of the first things I feel like I realized when I first moved out here. And one of the things that's only been reinforced by chatting with more people on the show is the realization that like everything in Hollywood has a system behind it or like mechanisms behind it that aren't random. I feel like sometimes like looking on the outside of the entertainment industry, you oftentimes, you see people, even like Oscar winners, right? Like you see like, oh, they edited this movie. This person got this job editing this movie because they'd been editing for a long time. And then they edited a good film and then they won the Oscar. And it's like, that's a really simple story to tell, but it's just like, it's really ignoring the reality of like, oh, this person understood how, like the first thing they had to do was understand how the editing union worked.
Yeah.
Right? They had to understand how the roster worked. And once they understood how the roster worked, then they had to understand how the union worked. And once they understood how the union worked, they had to understand how to be an assistant editor. And once they understood how to be an assistant editor, they had to understand how to be a great first assistant editor. And once they understood how to be a great first assistant editor, then they had to understand the networking process to get an agent. And once they understood how to get an agent, they understood how the studio system worked. Like the reality is like every single one of these things has mechanisms and systems and politics and everything behind it. It's social circles and all those kinds of things that you have to understand. You have to understand how all this stuff works and work within that system.
Yeah.
Or, if you're going to work outside of the system and how you're going to do that, like all that kinds of jazz. It's interesting to hear, I think, especially like so much of like what has been the last few years of me starting to understand how all this stuff works. Me, understanding how to get in the union and how to do all that and how to get my first jobs and all that stuff and kind of being so insular about it. Like, I don't have any editors in my family or anything like that. So it's just me chatting with people and how they see the world and figuring it out and then coming to my own conclusions about it. And then being on the show and chatting with people about it, realizing that like me and everybody else, we all have the same systems and things that we have to interact with, but how we see it so differently and how we can interact with stuff so differently. I find that really fascinating that like we all can look at that 100 days to get on the roster, and like that's the same criteria for everybody, but how everybody goes about doing that is so different, even that, right? Like there is no like, everybody did this one thing. Like everybody did a different thing.
They did it so differently.
Days. And
Yeah. I mean, I was just talking to my friends about this too the other day, and we were talking about how like, merit is good, but merit can't always get you to where you want to be in the, like you could be a great photo, you could be a great editor, but if you're not networking or like you're not taking those opportunities, like you're not, putting yourself in the position to show your merit. It's not so much like, oh, I can edit this thing really well. Let me just like submit it somewhere or like show people. And like there are the cases that can get you somewhere, you can get recognized by that. But it's a lot of also like merit and luck and opportunity and all of that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. When I first started, you just kind of get this impression that, if I just learn these Avid skills, or I just learn these After Effects skills, or I just learn these whatever, like I'll be set to go in this job. And the reality is that is like so far from the truth. It's like it's hard skills are important. Hard skills are, the ability to perform, but getting the chance to audition is an entirely different set of skills, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like,
I think another thing that I learned too, and we'll get to whatever you learned too, Michael.
No, I'm just piggybacking off of what you said.
I think this year, besides just the show, but just talking to people, I had no idea what the world of having an agent was either. You don't think of editors having an agent. You think of actors and talent having agents. But no, understanding, like talking to Jesse and talking to Chris and being like, what was that process like? And even off mic, talking to them and hearing how they went about like meeting up with multiple people and talking to them and then seeing if they vibed with them. And then it's like another form of networking, I guess. And then how that system works, even though I'm far from having an agent, it's still good to have in my back pocket knowledge about what might need to happen in the future.
And it's interesting because when I graduated, I didn't know what the agencies were when I was in film school.
Me too.
I'd never 100% heard of
me too.
CAA or UTA or WME or ICM or any of these big agencies or anything like that.
People would tell me like, oh, I got an internship at like CAA. And I'd be like, what is that?
What is that?
What is that? What do you do? Like, what does that mean?
It's crazy in retrospect that in film school, I didn't know about that stuff because, now a lot of the people who went to Chapman work at CAA or UTA or WME.
Oh, really?
A lot of them.
Oh, wow.
So it's interesting. I mean, it's been interesting hearing, I didn't know that much about below the line agents as much as stuff like that. But like, I have been getting the agency crash course just through my friends over the last like 4 or 5 years now. I like hearing how the agencies work. All my friends work at these places that, you start to get a totally different view of how the industry works chatting with agency people.
We should bring one of them on.
We could bring an agency person on.
Yeah.
You would be fascinated. It is an entirely different world. Like they see the film industry in a vastly different way than you and I see the film industry. Agency people and agents in general are like, thank God they're not in Hollywood. They're not in Washington, D.C. because they would murder everybody there. They would be like the most cutthroat politicians. Like, thank God there is almost a grease trap of taking the most skilled politicians who would be the most cutthroat people and putting them in Hollywood instead of Washington, D.C. Because it's like, that's all it is. Like agency is just like, it's politics and it's negotiations and it's people. A project gets made not just because it's profitable, but because there are fighters fighting for it long before we've entered a cutting room.
Yeah.
Right? Like we come into a cutting room and we think like, oh, look at all these mistakes.
I mean, we're
that we
near
have to
the
fix.
end.
Yeah.
We're very close to the end. We're like
sometimes I've been on movies.
Third or second to last at the end.
I'm on movies and I think, we're fixing all these people's mistakes.
Right.
It's a lot of what post is. Like sometimes it's a lot of just fixing people's mistakes. But you chat with people who are on production or people who are in development and you think like, it's amazing I'm even sitting here. It's amazing this even happened.
See, this is why I don't like when people, like the general public, blame one person for if the movie's bad. Like when they're like, oh, the director sucks, or like the writing sucks, or the act. It's like, okay, it might not be good, but you can't blame one. There's so many people and so many hands that are in this project that like the writer might not have wanted it to be the way it is.
Yeah.
But like they had to because of some political dispute.
Or even editors. I mean, sometimes
like anybody.
You don't see it as often, but you do see sometimes you'll see a review that say like the editing was bad. Yeah. That annoys the hell out of me because I'm always like, look at who the editor is. If the editor has done amazing films, like they've edited amazing films, I guarantee you they're not editing. The editing is not bad. I guarantee you this is the best possible version of this film that exists. Like the editor probably wasn't handed gold.
Yeah.
Right? And they had to...
Or they were, but like politics, other people went against them who have higher power than they do and made them turn it into something else that they might... And maybe they did. Maybe they fought for it, but they lost the battle and they can't, they can't do anything about it. But they tried their best and all that. So, but back to...
things we learned about editorial.
Podcast.
No, I mean, this overview. Is part of
this
it.
This is all
right?
good. This
I mean,
is all
good. It is, I think like it's important. I definitely have been feeling more and more, the more that I work in the industry, the more that I think it's important that we in editorial get out of our bubbles. Like editorial really is a bubble. And I feel like all the crafts are a bubble to an extent, but editorial probably more than most. I mean, like, we're below the line, but we don't spend any time with any other below the line people, Yeah. Like how many costume designers do you know? How many makeup artists do you know? How many first ACs do you know?
We're just like 3 or 4 people in one room.
And so I do think it's important we have more conversations about it because I do think there is more that we can learn in editorial from people who don't work in editorial, that sometimes I do think we lock ourselves to a certain way of thinking and we lock ourselves to a certain culture and a certain group of people. And I think that honestly has been in many ways to our detriment more than it has been to the editorial community's like success. What's interesting is when I was in film school, I was taught, and I think we reinforce this in our language and we reinforce it in our editing culture, but I was taught that the best way of editing is Western style invisible editing. Like, what is our big event called for editors right before the Oscars?
Are you talking about the invisible artists,
invisible art, right?
Yeah, invisible artists. Yeah.
I think that's not a coincidence. Like we sometimes have locked ourselves into this way of thinking that like the best way to make a movie is the way we've been making movies, right? That all movies and all editing should be invisible.
Yeah.
And it should it should be unnoticed. And the best edit is one where you don't notice the edit.
Yep. I've heard the same thing.
I think that's there's good lessons in that style, but in the same way that we all network differently, in the same way that people get agents differently, the same way that people's careers evolve differently. I think this podcast and interviewing people has only reinforced my belief that like culturally our community has locked ourselves to a certain way of doing things for a long time. And I think like, we alluded to a little bit on Chris's episode, but like there should be a real push in our community over the next few years, really especially to like view our different ways of doing our art form. I think it's a shame sometimes that I think about like other art forms, cinematography, sound design, even
that's
directing.
That's a little bit more like free-flowy.
It's free-flowing and they're learning. I mean, a lot of them are learning, right? Like I find it really interesting that one of the most exciting things happening in the world of editorial, the most rapidly changing form of editorial is like TikTok. It's like TikTok and Instagram. And like that sounds silly to say, but it's like I've seen amazing edits from kids on TikTok using CapCut. And I'm like, I have a folder where I log interesting edits. And I see the most fascinating ways of cutting footage from a kid who's doing something on his phone that has no idea that he or she just did one of the most interesting edits I've seen all year. I've done a little bit of YouTube editing and stuff like that. I've worked, like I got hired, this was immediately a Writer Shack. I had a friend who's a YouTube producer. And he's like, well, do you want to come cut some stuff for my client? And I was like, yeah, sure. Okay. And they had a big backlog of other YouTube videos. And he was like, just watch a bunch of the videos. And it was like super high intensity, really fast cutting. Like, hey guys, welcome to another episode. And like that kind of stuff. And it was
like swishes. Hey guys.
Exactly. A lot of sound effects, a lot of cutaways, like
jump cuts.
That was something I had to learn. But it's interesting because it's like that type of content right? That type of film is not the type of stuff I watch. But it nevertheless, like, I'm grateful to have had that experience, because I do think that it's like, I do think that stuff's interesting. Like, it is interesting that is the style of filmmaking and movie making that speaks to a certain generation.
Yeah.
And it is really kind of silly of us in editorial to look at that stuff and say, no, thank you. Like, ignore it completely. You know, even chatting with like Zachary and about fitness and stuff like that, right? Like, that's a style of living in our business that is really interesting and really different. And it behooves all of us to like listen to stuff like that and think about not just how, basically like take all of the best parts of these different styles and lifestyles and things that we like and try to incorporate them into our own art and our own work and our own lives. Nevertheless, I feel like that's like writ large. A lot of what I've been thinking about on the show is just thinking how interesting it is how we all can have the same access to the same piece of information and then just like
do something totally different with it. Yeah. I do want to try and get on someone who's in music.
Yeah, what are the type of guests you want to have on this next few years?
Yeah, I would love to have. So we've got a little ongoing list here of people that we'd love to bring on and have agreed to come on. It's just schedules have been a little bit tight.
I really want to get an animation assistant editor on here.
Animation assistant.
YouTube editor, a YouTube assistant would be great.
YouTube editor would be interesting. Yeah. We are going to try and get Tyler Nelson, Bill Hoy, Jason Ballantyne. Yeah. Jason Ballantyne will wrap up our little team consisting of Jason.
The Flash?
Yeah, the little Flash team of Jason, Ben, Haruka, and Esther.
That's true.
And so all these people, I've talked to them and they've said they'd like to do it, but of course they are all pretty busy. So we're sort of waiting for when there's a time to bring them on. But I'd also love to get someone who's in music and in sound and talk to them.
Yeah, we can get some agency people who don't work in post.
Get some agency people.
It'd be good to get some people who don't work in post.
I would love to hear their side.
Yeah.
We might try and get Bill Daly, who used to be the senior. His title is always gets me. He used to be the senior vice president of post-production at Warner Brothers for many, many years. He did all the Harry Potter movies. He did The Matrix, plethora of things. He has since retired for about 15 years, I think, now. But it would be interesting to get him on and hear like studio side stuff as well. Especially studio side in post-production, I think would be interesting to hear about what his view of post-production is and kind of what his job is at that high level.
I think it'd probably be good for this year for us to do more advertising of the show. I feel like we're probably at that point. We have a backlog of episodes now. It's probably time we start.
I thought about
taking more progressive ways of advertising the show.
Did you ever see? I think there's something on Instagram of a guy who has a shirt and he has a QR code on the back of the shirt.
We don't have shirts. We should get jackets and shirts.
I was thinking about getting something with a QR code
for our podcast.
But there's a guy who has one. And I think if you like do a QR, it comes up with a funny message like "fuck you" or something. But it's like scan me, and it's like "fuck you."
That's funny.
But I was considering shorts, so I have something with like a little tiny, like it doesn't have to be huge.
We could get jackets and then hand out little business cards with little QR codes on it.
Yeah,
that might be cute.
Or it'd be one of those people that put stickers up all over town of just like the QR code.
Problem is, our podcast is like, I tell people, they're like, oh, you have, I'll chat with people and they're like, oh, you have a podcast. And I'm like, I do. But if they don't work in post-production, I'm generally like, you can listen to it. You might have a fun time listening to it. Yeah. I just want to warn you, it's like the most inside baseball podcast.
Kind of.
But I meant like, if you, like my mom listens to the show.
Oh, my mom does too. Yeah. She's like, hi, mom. She was like, I'm in the middle of listening to Jason's episode. And I'm like, that one might be a little tough. And then she was like, but I find it interesting. She was like, I was like, do you understand it? She was like, I mean, I get the gist of it, but like, it's interesting to listen to. And she's listening to it. Yeah. I mean, I'm like, good for you.
But I do warn people that I'm like, I find it really interesting, but it is definitely like, you got to understand, like, this is a show by assistant editors, like really for editors and assistant editors. So, it's a niche. It is like it's a niche crowd.
It's a little niche, but I think that there could be some people who are just interested, who could be interested in just how it all works.
I think there's probably more people who would be interested that just don't even know that we exist.
Oh yeah. That's why I'm like, let's just put stickers all
put stickers around town.
Like, interested in post-production. Listen to our podcast.
Listen to our podcast.
Like that.
Yeah. you know, by the way, what our most listened to episode is?
No, tell me.
You want to know?
Most listened to episode.
Most listened to episode is episode 5, The Supervision Mission, featuring Eric Bergman.
That is great.
That's our number 1. Our number 2 is our first episode, which I feel like is to be expected.
Yeah. With us or with
just you and me.
Okay, yeah.
Which makes sense. I feel like it's just like, you know, it's most people's like, oh, do I like the show or not? And then our next most listened to episode is with Grant.
Okay. Those are our top 3.
That's our top 3. I'll leave it there. That's our top 3. We can leave it there.
We don't have to go down the list.
So I find that interesting. Our most listened to episode is with Eric. Not to say that Eric's bad. Eric's fabulous. Eric's one of the most energetic people I've ever met in my entire life. That might be why the episode is so...
I also love this episode because
a great episode.
It's another one where I had no idea what post-supervising was.
Yeah.
Like I knew the gist, but just from interacting with post-supervisors, but like the actual job.
The nitty-gritty, the meat.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The kind of stuff he has to deal with versus the kind of stuff we have to deal with is really interesting. Yeah,
it is. I love that. What about you? I never asked you about your thoughts, your hopes and dreams for the podcast.
Hopes and dreams for the podcast. I feel like I would love, I've been really enjoying our series of conversations with firsts.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that. And that, again, it keeps going back to a conversation, you know, you and I have had many times, and one that I've had with a lot of firsts, that I find it very frustrating, again, in our community, that we are so good at educating people on the stuff that they need to be a successful PA, apprentice, assistant, second assistant, and editor, and we never ever talk about the things you need to be a successful first. It just never comes up. It never comes up in interviews. It never comes up in whatever that like. But every show that I've been on, so often the success of that production can be directly tied to the effectiveness of the first, right? Like I truly believe that. I truly believe that like your editor is really important, but your editor cannot execute a good creative vision unless their home is clean.
Yeah.
And their home is only clean if the first is keeping it clean. Mm-hmm. And I find that frustrating that feels to me like such an important position with so much weight on its shoulders that we just don't talk about that often.
It's like the middleman, right? Like everybody...
It's like everything goes through the first.
Yeah, but everybody gives the advice of like how to get into the industry, right? Be a PA. This is what you have to do to be a good PA. And then they all talk about... I mean, I haven't really talked about too much on how to be a good apprentice, second, or first. It's just like, here's how to be a good PA. Now to be an editor... But like, this is what you have to do to be an editor, is be an assistant. And then you can be an editor. Yeah. And then when you're an editor, this is what happens.
But I even feel like
you skip over.
But I even feel like when I was an apprentice, like, and I would tell people and being like, I'm an apprentice. What's your advice or anything like that? You would get great advice from people about, oh, well, you should do this and you shouldn't do this. And when you have every opportunity to go into the assistant editor's room and ask to learn, you should be doing that, right?
Yeah.
Like there's good advice that people just regularly give about being a good apprentice. And then when I started becoming a second, a lot of people were like, here's a great way of being a second. You know, go and chat with your first X amount of times a day.
Right,
go ask them what they need. Go check in with the editor. Do blah, 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 blah. Have a good relationship with the post supervisor. Like all these kinds of, you just get, I don't know. For me, when I would tell people I'm a second, I'd get good advice from editors.
It's always about like getting up to the next step. But then once you're
now that I've started firsting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure this stuff out. And when you chat with people about being a first, they're like, yeah, the job's hard.
Yeah.
It's kind of where that ends, right?
Yeah.
Like people just they're not like, oh, here's how I was a good. And I mean, the real thing that sparked this in me was chatting with Esther and my first conversations with Esther about being a first. And she's the first person that kind of would iterate to me that like she had a philosophy around being a first. And I found that really helpful in just hearing that there were other philosophies in doing this job. And so I would love to continue more conversations about that because I don't think there's any one way to, just in the same way that there's no any one way to be an editor, there's no one way to be a first and there's no one way to run a cutting room, really.
No.
And I feel like
it's funny because you're saying all this stuff and this is the exact reason why we started this podcast was to talk about all of this stuff to help people who are interested in making that jump, making that leap, and then being like, okay, now I'm here and now what? Yeah. And just talking to other firsts and getting insight from other people from the cutting room that, you know, you're not going to experience until you're in the cutting room. And for some people, that's really daunting to be like, I have to jump into this cutting room with no knowledge whatsoever
about how to do this thing.
About how to do this. So we started this to help people have that information, to hear other experiences of other people who are in the first position, apprentice, PA, second position, all of that, so that they can kind of be aware of what they're getting into.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
Yeah. So for the show, I would love to do more conversations with firsts. Any firsts that we can get in here who are willing to talk.
Yeah.
I feel like that's really helpful. I feel like those episodes have been really helpful to me. And I feel like those are some of the most helpful episodes we've made. I also think, again, I think I'd like to do a little more advertising of the show going into the next year. I think it would be good. I love the idea of bringing somebody in on music. I love the idea of bringing in people on kind of the industries that butt up against ours. Sound
is one of them too. Yeah.
More visual effects. If we can get a visual effects artist, visual effects producer, maybe people who aren't necessarily VFX editors, but people who are like, they work in the visual effects department fully.
In the vendor side kind of thing.
Vendor side would be great too. Or even just like, having a visual effects supervisor.
Yeah. That'd be great too.
Somebody who has to work with editorial regularly, but isn't in editorial. Even directors could be interesting to get a director in here.
Yeah, that would be great.
What else? What's your New Year's resolution?
My New Year's resolution?
Yeah, outside of editorial, outside of anything.
Outside of anything.
What do you want out of 2025, Lian?
Mine is working on reacting as quickly as I do.
You're trying to react faster.
Trying to, no, less.
Oh, less? Okay.
If I could react faster to everything, I'd be ahead of whatever was being said or done. In past shows, I've kind of, the knee-jerk reaction of things when you're being corrected, I should say, is to explain yourself, right? At least for me. My knee-jerk reaction when someone says like, hey, you did this wrong, like here's how to fix it. Or my knee-jerk reaction is to be like, well, this is why I did it wrong, right? So those are the kind of, not just editorial, but like my daily life as well. But those kind of things to be like, let's not react so quickly. Like just kind of...
Let's just say,
take it in, say, okay.
Gotcha.
And I've gotten a lot better at it since I've started out.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things too, where it's like, New Year's resolution. I'm like, well, my resolution is to just continue to work on all the stuff I've been trying to work on, What about you? Do you have anything?
Yeah. I think this is probably, I think it's a byproduct of where I am in my career and where I'm at my life, that for a long time, I've been able to work very diligently under the systems of other people or like institutions or anything. Like I was in school for a long time and, lived at home, all kinds of things that like I am now, it's really dawning on me, especially in the last year, like the last 2 years, that as I start to take more of a leadership role in cutting rooms, that I have to develop systems that work for me. I can't rely on the systems of others. That's not just professionally, but also personally. It's being like, okay, what's my system for getting up in the morning on time and getting to, work on time and working out on time and all this stuff, like having a system that I build for myself, and then not only building a system, but sticking to it.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes even in the cutting room, I'll be like, this is my system, and I have my to-do list here, and I have my thing here, and blah, 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 blah. And when things are like calm and good, I'm able to stick to it, no problem. But the moment everything goes hectic, I go, well, I don't have to put this on the to-do list right now because I'm too busy, and I'll just write it down on this piece of paper here. And then I start not taking care of my system.
Right,
and then a week later, I'm feeling overwhelmed as hell, and I can't keep track of everything. And it's because when it mattered the most, I abandoned the system.
Hell, yeah.
So it's about working on my system, and then even in crazy times, sticking to my systems.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And so I think for me, that's going to be a big thing for this year, is being like respecting, because I feel like I've been good in the past of respecting other people's systems.
Right.
But now it's about time for respecting my own. And that's going to be a new thing for me, or it has been a new thing for me. So sticking to that.
I think the other thing, because when you started talking, I had thought about when I become the first on the next film, whatever my next job is, and hopefully I'll be a first, but that idea of having my own philosophy about things is like I have to choose how to run my cutting room.
You have to,
that is a little bit daunting as well.
And you have to choose all kinds of things, right? You got to choose what is your vacation policy for yourself and for the people who work underneath
What's
you.
overtime policy?
What's overtime? This is what I mean. Like when you're first, you make all these freaking decisions.
You make all these decisions.
Make all these decisions that matter, that really matter. And it's really crazy to me that we don't talk about it. Like your decision on when a last minute change happens on a screening can vastly change the outcome of a movie.
Yeah.
Like it really can. Like,
you
know, it changes the tempo in which a movie is cut. And I'm not saying the movie's going to be worse. It might be better, but that's your decision to make.
Yeah.
And it's how that's going to affect your team and how that's going to affect you and how that's going to affect the editor and how that's going to affect the director and how that's going to affect the screening. It's a simple little decision, but it matters. I find it really fascinating in the same way
it is
that we have conversations about the philosophy. I think we should have more conversations about the philosophy of editing. I feel like we were chatting about earlier. I think it's frustrating that we're just beholden to this idea that the only good edit is an invisible edit.
Right. Yeah.
Every single film position has a bunch of different philosophies, and firsting, we just don't talk about it. It does. It exists. We just don't talk about it. There are a lot of philosophies to being a first, and it matters the success of your film based off of your philosophy and how it works within the larger context of a movie.
Well, we're going to try to talk more about that in this year.
And it would be good to steer us maybe a little bit back outside of the cutting room. I feel like last few episodes, we've gotten really into the cutting room.
We have, yeah.
Like our episode with Zach, I still really think is one of the best episodes we put out about him being a dad.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so stuff like that would be great. More stuff like planning weddings and all kinds of things outside of the cutting room that intersect within our lives. I think it would be good to have more conversations about stuff like that.
Definitely. Definitely.
What's our for-year consider? Who are we? I guess the nominations haven't come out yet. We could do a 15-minute prediction episode where we just go through our Oscar predictions. We're recording this, unfortunately, at a time when we don't have the nominations in front of us yet. But onst we have the nominations in front of us, we should do an episode where we
can release it.
Endorse. We can endorse movies. Based off of who we know who worked on those movies.
We'll do an episode about the Oscars and talk about what we think should win. And who we think is going to win. There's always
a difference.
Well, this is who I think should win, but I think the Academy is going to pick this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of Sips and Clips. We will have a guest next time. I'm not looking at the schedule, so I can't tell you who it's going to be, but
there will be a guest.
That'll be a mystery you'll have to find out about. So we'll catch you next time.
Sipping and clipping.
We need to have some kind of outro this year.
That's McDonald's. Wait, hold on.
Some kind of like phrase outro. I mean, because every time I'm always like, "Thanks for listening," and bye. I guess
we'll catch you sipping and clipping next time.
You guys keep on sipping, and we'll keep on clipping.
There you go.
There it is.
We'll swap it every episode.
There you go.
Keep on clipping, and you guys keep on sipping.
Yeah.
Every episode just
that took me a second to understand what you said. So we'll try. So you keep on sipping while we keep on clipping.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Sips and Clips is a podcast produced by Lian McFalls and Michael Schusterman. Graphic by Max Schulman.
Sound mixing by Cassidy Leggin.
Sound editing by Zach Griffin. Follow us on Instagram at Sips and Clips Pod. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.